Welcome back to the fog, my ghouls and goblins. My name's Taylor, your casual crypt keeper, and I've got something for you today. Ed and Lorraine Warren. Two of the most storied names in demonology. Heck, they're probably the most storied name in demonology. I don't know if I can name any other demonologists. They worked countless case files. They say up to 10,000, and one can only imagine what secrets must have been hiding inside that log. Well, we got ourselves a little peek today, because this is the top 5 scary photos from Ed and Lorraine Warren that just got uncovered. What sort of stuff do you want to hear the channel talk about? Let us know down below in the comments, and let's dive on in. Number 5, the Amityville Horror photo. The Warrens had been around, claiming to have seen 10,000 cases in their lifetime. But there are few of many cases that got them as much renown and people talking as the Amityville Horror case. Way before there were any Conjuring movies, way before it was a smash hit franchise, they were already making tons of movies about Amityville. The Warrens have been in the silver screen since the beginning. Amityville, Long Island was the center stage for the most infamous and strange case in America. In 1974, the house had been owned by the DeFeo family, until one day, Ronald DeFeo Jr. went one by one with a rifle and claimed the life of every member of his family, later going on and telling people that spirits had commanded him to do so. After this horrifying event, a year later, the Lutz family would move in, not much bothered by the house's dark history. You know, in this market, you gotta take a good deal on rent wherever you can get it. During the first month of living there, they realized almost right away that something was wrong. Swarms of flies, banging noises, and spectral apparitions of monstrous animals or phantasmal beings that the real estate agent definitely did not mention. Now, the Warrens were called in as they were experts in the paranormal, and they were called in to investigate the haunting and see if there was anything they could do. They brought with them camera crews and tried to record their findings, most famous among them a photo of what appears to be the ghost of a boy with shimmering eyes staring down from the stairwell. It's truly chilling stuff. Now, it has to be addressed even by skeptic standards. Sorry, we gotta play Scully, it can't all be Mulder over here. That there is a lot of debate as to whether or not the Amityville Horror was more like the Amityville hoax. George Lutz, the father of the Lutz family, contacted the DeFeo's lawyer, William Weber, and said he was trying to get a book written up about the client. And Weber had told news media that the haunting was all just a story he had made up with the Lutz family over a bottle of wine, in the hopes of getting a retrial, and in the hopes of getting a little bit of change for the Lutz family. So, what do you think? Was this America's most famous haunting, or was it just a fantastic backdrop for a series of okay movies? And my ghouls and goblins, if you're looking for some more terrifying true tales, or tales that ain't so true, from ghosts to cryptids to aliens and a whole lot more, Top 5 Scary has all of that and then way more. Drop a like and subscribe and stay scared. Okay, moving on. Number 4, Enfield. Another very discussed case from Ed and Lorraine Warren's case files is the infamous Enfield Poltergeist haunting. It served as the backdrop for the second Conjuring film, although the second Conjuring took a bit more liberties than the other films. There was no Crooked Man or Valak in the original haunting story, but it's still pretty interesting to listen to nonetheless. It captivated audiences worldwide after photos surfaced showing what looked to be the young Hodgsons being possessed and thrown about the room levitating. It was 6 years after the Warrens had investigated the Perron family haunting, all the way in Enfield, England. The Hodgson family had been living peacefully there, helmed by the single mother Peggy Hodgson and her 4 children. It was the summer of 1977 when the youngest members of the Hodgson family seemed to be being targeted by spirits. They saw the dresser of their bedroom sliding across the room as if a powerful invisible force was pushing it all around. They would hear constant knocking from all over. Now, the family called the police because they were worried that there had been a burglary, and when the officers arrived, they claimed that they arrived to a home where the furniture was free floating throughout the air. Pretty wild stuff. Now, over the course of a year, psychics, investigators, amateur, and all kinds of paranormal enthusiasts came to the Enfield house in the hopes that they would be able to figure out the haunting and crack the case. Of course, it goes without saying that if this many paranormal enthusiasts were all congregating in one place, Ed and Lorraine Warren were definitely there. They were certain they had their hands on a classic poltergeist scenario. Now, like I said, between the film and the true story, they differ pretty greatly in this example. Really, the Warrens were not terribly involved with the Enfield haunting that much at all. In fact, they were barely there for a few days even. Most of the investigators that had arrived to the Enfield property had kind of suspected that it might have been a hoax, or that things had been largely exaggerated or misunderstood and stretched by people involved. But the Warrens believed that they had a good, firm confirm case on their hands. Now, unfortunately we can't ask them, so we can only speculate. Was that because there was a real spirit, a real haunting, or is it just because they had the foresight and they knew that this was going to make a great script for an entry in a movie franchise someday? In 1979, 2 years after the first reportings, the Enfield haunting mysteriously stopped. No more sightings, no more reports. Was it ever really there? Number 3. The Shadow Doll. When you enter the Warrens' haunted museum, one of the first things you'll see is this frightening little doll, affectionately dubbed the Shadow Doll. It's made of bird feathers and real human teeth. Oh, that's just lovely, thanks. It's currently owned by Tony Spera, the son-in-law of the late Warrens and the current proprietor of the museum. He offers a little bit of insight into the doll's unique history, saying it was originally acquired at an antique shop where it was being sold with the owner unaware of the doll's negative energy, which I feel that is totally on you. You're running an antique store and you're not a little bit concerned that someone came to you with a doll with real human teeth and bird feathers? I feel like you don't need to know that much about the occult or to be a big horror movie guy to know that is definitely cursed. If somebody comes in and drops a doll off at your store that has human teeth, your first response has to be to chuck that thing in the ocean, not put a $14.99 price tag on it. Oh, anyway, Spera claims the doll has an insidious little gift inside of it, and that's if you take a photograph of the doll and then the photo develops, you write a curse that you'd like to inflict on the back of the photo, and then you send it to your victim. The person who then opens the envelope and sees the doll in the photo will invite the curse into your home. And I know what you're worrying about right now. Are you cursed right now watching this video? Nah, you're good. I think digital photos are fine, and besides, I would never write any curses on any of these photos. And if I was ever gonna curse you, I would curse you to always make the right amount of pasta and have your crush text you back. I would only curse you something real nice. Now, my big question about the Shadow Doll is, do you think it gets jealous having to share museum space with Annabelle? How hard must it be to be the second most famous cursed doll in a museum of cursed dolls? People come in all day to gawk at your movie star sister, get autographs and selfies with her, and you just have to sit and stew. No wonder the doll is cursing people. I think it's got some repressed aggression. Number 2, the Southend Werewolf. This is maybe one of the odder cases in the Warrens' history, which is really saying something since the only thing the Warrens ever investigated was incredibly odd cases. This one was back in England again, in Essex. The Warrens got word of a particularly unusual case. This wasn't a haunted house or a poltergeist or a suspected demon possession or anything. This was someone claiming they had come down bad with a case of lycanthropy. There was a bad moon rising over Essex. A carpenter by the name of William Ramsay had claimed that since his youth, he had been cursed into transforming into a werewolf. Not every night or on full moons, but seemingly random times, the spirit of a wolf would overtake him and he would go feral. It hurts seeing someone live out your childhood dreams like that. He claims that he's been plagued his whole life, and his first transformation occurred when he was a boy. He was playing outside when he felt an icy breeze coming over his skin, freezing his sweat to his skin. He then said he felt a primal bloodlust and hunger coming over him, and he was overwhelmed by a pungent, awful odor. He flew into a fit of rage and found himself shredding a fence post with the fence still attached and chewing at wire mesh. Now, for years he wrote this off as a strange incident. You know, something that every boy goes through when you're growing up. Puberty's a strange time. It wasn't until 1983 that the wolf came out to play again. William was out at the pub with his friends when he felt that familiar chill come over him. He felt the sweat freezing to his skin and excused himself to go to a bathroom, and claims that when he looked into the mirror, all he saw back was a wolf's unmistakable snout and yellow eyes staring back at him. He called the cab home, but had to be held down by the driver because he was thrashing and lashing out at the driver and other passengers. Eventually, he composed himself. I think they gave him a milk bone, and he tried to live quietly after these incidents. It was in 1989 when Ed and Lorraine caught wind of the case. They invited him to get to Connecticut for a personal exorcism. I thought it was silver bullets that dealt with werewolves, but I guess that's probably a more permanent solution. Exorcism was probably the right way to go. Initially, William was skeptical, which I find kind of interesting. You turn into a werewolf, but you're skeptical that an exorcism will make a difference? Anyway, he ended up visiting, and reports claim that after a long night of violent thrashing, the wolf was finally exorcised, and since then, William Ramsay was able to find peace. And number 1, the Satanic Idol. I don't know, Ed and Lorraine, a Satanic Idol. idol, a human skull. Well, those things sound like they could be haunted. Do you guys like haunted things? No way a satanic idol and human skull that were involved in dark rituals are haunted. No way. The skull was given to the Warrens as a gift, which is kind of an odd gift to someone, but hey, they were kind of odd people, so they were probably thrilled to death with it. Now the idol is a different story. The tall, slender, bizarre idol doesn't immediately scream Satan or satanic, but you can take a look at it and you'd kind of be unnerved. This is not the kind of thing I would bring in off the side of the road. It's not the kind of thing you'd want to catch in the woods, and yet for one lonesome hunter, that is exactly what happened. Apparently the idol, and the skull with it, were taken from the woods nearby to the Warren estate by a local hunter who'd found them. The hunter claims he was approached by a man in mysterious black garb who ushered him away. Now obviously he was a little shaken and stirred by such a bizarre experience, so he went to the only people he thought he'd be able to trust with something like this, the Warrens, and took the idol to them for safekeeping. After he brought it to them, Lorraine fell deeply ill with no one able to diagnose what was happening to her. Ed believed that his family was being targeted for welcoming the idol into their home. Hey, you'd think that a demonologist would have seen that one coming, but hey, we all make mistakes. Lorraine recovered, and although no details emerged on how she did or what they did to purify and cleanse the idol, we can assume most likely it was probably blessed, exorcised, and doused in holy water of some kind, otherwise it wouldn't be fit to sit amongst their other treasures. It now rests inside the museum, alongside all of their other haunted relics. It's evil waiting inside, as it waits patiently for a Hollywood executive to come to it, and it's open to offers for a 3-picture deal with spin-offs included. Well, that's all she wrote, my ghouls and goblins. Thanks so much for watching. Keep on creeping on, and I'll see you in the next one.